Good morning and welcome. Please rise for the presentation of the colors. Guests, please be seated. Good morning, and welcome to the retirement ceremony in honor of the 60th Chief of Naval Personnel, Vice Admiral Richard J. Cheeseman, Jr. Guests, please rise for the arrival of the official party. Bosun, post the side boys. Chief of Naval Personnel, arriving. Admiral, United States Navy, retired, arriving. Guests, please be seated. Bosun, retire the side boys. Guests, please rise for our national anthem and remain standing for the pass and review and the invocation. Rear Admiral Gregory Todd, Chief of Navy Chaplains, will now offer the invocation.
Let us pray. Eternal Father, ruler of wind and wave, you guide the heavens and order all of creation. We seek your blessing on today. As Vice Admiral Rick Cheeseman retires from the Navy, and we pray for your continuing guidance on him as he faces the next chapter of his life. Through the challenges of moving, of overseas deployments, the day-to-day demands of leading in our Navy, you have blessed us and our nation for over 30 years with the leadership of Admiral Cheeseman. We give you thanks, O Lord, for the blessing he has been to us and all those with whom he has served these many years. Continue to be with him and Barbara. Bless them through this ceremony, a celebration of service, and lead them as they move into a new chapter of their lives. May they always be wrapped in your love and assured of your care. Lord, for our shipmates who could not be here, be with those who are deployed, underway, or standing the watch for our nation. We pray for your guidance on our president and all leaders, and ask you to bless the United States and the Navy with the blessing of your leadership. Eternal Father, be our strength and courage in all we are called upon to do, that with honor, courage, and commitment we may distinguish ourselves as your servants. Amen.
Guests, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to introduce Vice Admiral Richard J. Cheeseman, Jr., the 60th Chief of Naval Personnel.
All right, good morning. If anyone had proposed a bet to me in August of 1985, when I took my 20 seconds. Holy cow! When I took my first oath as a ROTC midshipman, that I'd be on stage here today with a retired Chief of Naval Operations, the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, the Chief of Navy Chaplains, and all of you, I would have taken that bet. All right? There's no way it was going to happen. I was a 4 years and get out of the Navy guy. In fact, when I walked out of the initial ceremony, when you take your oath as a ROTC midshipman, I turned to my parents and I'm like, hey man, what the hell did I just get into? All right? And I've said that a lot over the last 40 years. All right? But more on my journey later. All right? I have the distinct pleasure this morning of introducing today's guest speaker. I won't go deep into her biography. You have it in your program, and I encourage you to read it. What I will say is that she is the most inspiring, thoughtful, decisive, and responsible leader I've ever worked for. It's going to be a long day. Sorry. She's a visionary, she's innovative, and she's resilient. She's a warfighter. Okay? But best of all, she's empathetic, all while holding people accountable. So I first met Admiral Franchetti in 1996, I think. All right, I was running opposition forces for the old Joint Task Force exercises. She was Opsel Moosbrugger, a destroyer in Norfolk. I thought the plan I was briefing her was pretty solid, all right, but she peppered me with relevant questions that I hadn't even thought of. I left that meeting thinking I really needed to get my crap together. All right, little did I know I'd feel the exact same way leaving the Vice Chief and CNO's office years and years later. All right, after getting the same types of questions from her. You never stop learning from Admiral Franchetti. She is the best. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our 33rd Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Lisa Franchetti.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rick. Thank you so much for that very kind introduction and for reminding me of those days of Comp 2Xs, which are a little bit far in the rearview mirror for us, but always bring back great memories. Well, good morning, everyone. Secretary Del Toro, many former secretaries, Admiral Ferguson, Deputy Chiefs of Naval Operation, Mick Pond, Vice Admiral Janico, Flag and General Officers, our active and reserve sailors, Marines, civilians, distinguished guests, amazing family and friends, both here and online. It is really my honor to be here with you today as we celebrate the lifelong service and career of an amazing leader, a skilled warfighter, a human resources genius, an unfortunate Philly sports fan, and a very dear friend, a sailor's sailor, Vice Admiral Rick Cheeseman. I'm so happy you could all join us for today's ceremony. It's a ceremony full of tradition as we heave to and pause for a moment to reflect on Rick's exceptional career and his lifetime of service to our Navy and our nation. Before I get started, let me say thank you to the Navy Band and to the Ceremonial Guard for always adding so much to our celebrations. Please join me in giving them a big round of applause. Rick, thank you for inviting me to be part of this great day. And thank you for all that you've done over your last 36 years, or maybe 40 if you count your midshipman time, in uniform. Joining Rick today are his wife, Barbara, daughter, Deanna, husband, Jonathan, and granddaughters, Julie and Kelsey, your son, Andrew, wife, Hillary, grandsons, Benjamin and Casey, son, Bradley, wife, Becky, and grandson, Riley, who's joining remotely in Washington State, many lifelong friends, mentors, and of course, his big Navy family. I know that Rick agrees that those of us in uniform are recognized often for our service and our sacrifice, but it is our families who make such a long and distinguished career possible. So while we celebrate Rick today, it's equally important that we take the time to recognize all that his family and his big support network of teammates, mentors, and friends have done to support him throughout his career. So I'll start with the first family, the family he was born into, the family that set him on the right path, teaching him the value of hard work, dedication, and to believe in serving something greater than himself. Rick, I know your parents, Susan and Richard, are here with us in spirit today. Together, they would instill in you the traits needed to become such a bold, committed, and influential leader. Your strong sense of duty and impeccable character, no doubt, had its roots in your childhood home in South Jersey. And of course, we can't forget the power of siblings, especially brothers. Scott and Matt, you have been critical in shaping Rick into the person he is today. And Scott, I know that Rick is looking forward to spending more time with you, especially on the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. That takes us to Rick's next family, the family he created with Barbara, the family that provided the love, support, and encouragement that enabled Rick to fully devote himself to serving our nation. So let me pause for a minute and recognize Barbara, Rick's wife and anchor of 30 years. While you may be in charge as the chief of all naval personnel, as I understand it, you are in charge of exactly nothing at home. And I know that Barbara has been the key to your every success. Barbara, you came from a patriotic family. You gave up your own career to support Rick. You pushed him to take the hard jobs. You raised the kids and dealt with what probably feels like an endless series of moves and deployments. I know that some of the moves turned out to be surprisingly good, like serving abroad in Chinhae, Korea, bonding with new friends over the shared experience of new overseas culture, and your close call of nearly missing the military curfew when you were out in town one time in your Halloween costumes. In addition to taking care of your own family, you dedicated your time to taking care of others, jumping into the volunteer network wherever you were stationed, volunteering with Centera Virginia Beach Hospice for years, at Signature Healthcare in Memphis, with Volunteers of America in Norfolk during the pandemic, at military thrift stores, and all the while supporting our sailors and their families wherever you went. As Susan Cooper shared with me, the only thing better than Rick is his wife, Barbara. Rick may be great, but Barbara is outright special. Her kindness, approachability, and selfless generosity towards Rick's sailors and our flock of Navy spouses over the years set a great example for us all and really showed how Navy spouses can powerfully and positively impact our Navy families. And Susan is just one in a chorus of voices that feel the same way. Barbara, through every challenge and each uncertainty, you have been a continuous source of strength for Rick, for your family, and for your Navy teammates. Thank you. I know you're looking forward to heading south with Rick to your fabulous home in Chesapeake, where you won't have a limit on how many guests you can have on your patio due to weight restrictions, and all the windows will be airtight. Everybody, please join me in giving Barbara a big round of applause. To their kids, Deanna, Bradley, Andrew, I know it's not easy being a Navy kid. Moving around, deployments, changing schools, making new friends. I want to thank you for your own service and sacrifice, and a special thank you to Bradley for answering the call to serve and choosing to defend our nation as a Marine. I also want to recognize Rick and Barbara's grandchildren because I know they're so important to them. Thank you for the fun, for the inspiration that you provide to your grandparents every day. I hope you are ready and excited to spend more time with Grandma and Pop once he hangs up his Navy hat. I know they are. How about a big round of applause for this great Navy family? And that takes us to Rick's third family, his Navy family, the great mentors, teammates, individuals, many of whom are here today. The people who molded the Cheeseman clay and have inspired him, supported him, tolerated his Philly sports obsession, and been there for him every step along the way. For those that have had the pleasure of knowing Rick, you know that he considers his teammates family. He knows, and truly makes it known, that it's the strength of our support networks that brings us success, that fuels a winning mindset every day. And that's precisely what we see when we look at all that Rick and his teams have accomplished throughout his career. So to all three of Rick's families, both those here today and those you represent, thank you for having such an outsized impact on Rick's life. So Rick, as I talk with you, Barbara, and your very long list of friends, mentors, and Navy teammates, three overlapping pictures of you began to emerge. Rick the warfighter, Rick the chief of all naval personnel, and Rick the person. An amazing dad, husband, grandfather, mentor, friend, and teammate. You've come a long way since your days at Penn State with Ron Boxall and classmates Clapperton, Pyle, Aiken, Sharetta, and since your first ship, USS Savannah, where you and Andy McFarland were JOs just trying to survive. You might have spent a little bit of too much time at Ocean Eddies on 15th Street during that first tour, repeatedly jumping out of the windows and running back around for some reason and sleeping in lifeguard chairs, getting sand all over Andy when it wasn't a good idea to drive home. But despite those antics, people could already see your character and what you were made of. You were dedicated, driven, energetic, fearless, straightforward, authentic, funny, and 100% reliable. You cared about your people, you were hard on them, and you made it clear from day one that the standard is the standard, something I've repeatedly heard you say over the past many years. Andy observed that when you were talking with people, you were direct and always ready with a decisive, binary answer that built trust. People knew they had been heard, even if they didn't like the answer. 36 years later, that is still your calling card. At your next stop as a plank owner and navigator on Stout is where the picture of Rick the warfighter began to emerge. You upped your game by marrying Barbara, and despite needing to stand on top of a big plastic container of AFFF so you could look down onto the compass to shoot bearings, you began to lay the foundation of maritime warfighting skills that would one day lead you to the highest level of tactical command in our Navy. Transitioning to crew des would eventually connect you with one of your most important mentors, then Commodore Mark Ferguson. In your position as Desron 18 Ops, as we just discussed and Rick talked about in his days as being the commander to get after the Op 4, The Commodore had a huge job for you. Pass Comp 2X. The previous CSG had failed, and your CSG commander, then Rear Admiral Harry Ulrich, was not going to let that happen to him. Without delay, you got on the task, you figured out the Desron was shorthanded, and decided to outsource the ASW problem by bringing in an experienced MPRA wing commander, a sub-commander, and their staffs out to the carrier to stack the deck. In fact, you brought out so many people that there was an ongoing joke in the air wing that every single time the COD landed, it was simply full of more Desron augmentees. You integrated this team, and working with your German task force, refueled in a storm, and as you mentioned, sunk the OPFOR on the first day. Rick, the warfighter, had the first of his many wins as Desron Ops. And Admiral Ferguson remembers well your boundless energy, innovation, tactical prowess, being a connector of people, building trust, and that in this tour, perhaps most importantly, you learned a great deal from your early exposure to the impacts of having a manpower shortage at sea. Rick excelled in every operational command. First in Bulkley, his first command, which he told me was his favorite tour. Recounting his first time getting the ship underway, with Lex Walker as the XO, standing on the bridge, the lines are all singled up, and thinking, why is nothing happening? And then suddenly realizing, they're waiting for me to say, taken, all lines. While in command of Bulkley, Rick would go on to launch a slew of Tomahawks against a major high-value target, destroying a terrorist sanctuary, and significantly improving the Navy's ability to provide real-time support to operational forces ashore. And his actions earned him the Bronze Star. He went on to excel in every subsequent operational command. As commanding officer of Monterey, where your fellow strike group major commanders were a future star-studded lineup of Webb Kaler, George Wyckoff, J.T. Anderson, and Brad Cooper. As mock director in Bahrain, where Gene Black recalls how you brilliantly rebuilt the team and the staff during a tremendously demanding time, with the war in ISIS raging in Syria and Iraq, with Saudi Arabia and UAE at war with the Houthis, and ongoing combat in Afghanistan. And then again, as commander of Carrier Strike Groups 2 and 10, focused on warfighting and winning on multiple levels, heroically battling cancer while effectively leading our Navy's most lethal warfighting command. As he sharpened his warfighting edge at sea, Rick also cultivated his experience ashore in the people enterprise, with multiple tours in PERS 41, working manpower in N96, PERS 4, and then now as CNP. I think you spent about 10 years, more than a quarter of your career, in the personnel space, even more time than his mentor and friend, Dave Steindl, did. It was this exceptional combination of operational warfighting, manpower experience, and bold leadership that caught people's attention. When CNO Gilday called you in 2022 and asked if you wanted to be CNP, you said without hesitation, yes, I do. Once again, you answered the call and never looked back, and the picture of Rick, the chief of all naval personnel, was fully materializing. Jeff Hughes and Brad Cooper shared the belief that you will go down as the most influential people person our Navy has seen in our lifetimes, with a positive impact on hundreds of thousands of sailors that will be felt for generations to come. And MCPON could not stop bragging about your partnership and how you made his life 1,000 times easier. I wholeheartedly agree. During my time as CNO and VCNO, it was absolutely incredible watching you in action. You embraced the red. You tackled every challenge in the personnel, manning, and manpower space head on. When you got your draft day one letter, providing you direction on the things that you needed to get done in your first year, you sent it back with even harder, more challenging goals. And then when we challenged you on the NAV plan's Project 33 targets of 100% rating fill, 95% manning of deployed units, 100% recruiting shipping fill with 50% delayed entry pool by 2027, you stood firm, knowing that this was the right stretch goal for the Navy, and you proceeded to get after it. My team prepared an agenda for our monthly lunches, but I didn't need it because you always came into the office just bursting at the seams with updates, ideas, initiatives, and plans. I always look forward to those lunches. And looking back through my notes, it's amazing to reflect on all that you were able to achieve for our sailors and their families over the last 3 years. Let me just highlight a few. You used a get real, get better approach to fix sailor pay. You redesigned the way HR supports the fleet and regained the trust of our Navy. You accelerated billet-based advancement into reality, giving sailors more control over their careers and keeping our #1 focus on warfighting fills. You drove an enterprise approach to recruiting. Here's a note I jotted down in one of our lunches. CNP says, "I have a crazy idea. Let's put Jim Waters in charge of recruiting." And you did that. You set in motion the actions that would see us exceed our recruiting goals in 2024 and stay on track to do so in 2025. You created a workforce for the future with new specialties like maritime space officer, maritime cyber warfare officer, cyber warfare technician, and even established a robotics specialist rating, the first service to do so. And you relentlessly oriented our people enterprise on being ready to fight and win our nation's wars by setting standards and focusing on building great people, great leaders, and great teams through Culture of Excellence 2.0. Rick, there's no doubt that you are all about getting and keeping more players on the field, thinking, acting, and operating differently, using every letter available to you in a deliberate and integrated way to field a full and ready Navy team. So I've been talking a lot about the work you did at the policy level, but all of that work was informed by your direct engagement with and love for our sailors. There is no one more passionate about our sailors, their readiness and their welfare than you. Passion and authenticity define your delivery. You used to say at all hands call, "Just send me an email, Cheeseman," just like it sounds. Mick Pond observed that early in your time as CNP, it was obvious how dedicated you were to our people and how willing you were to have a conversation with anyone. You answer questions, solve issues, and restore confidence simply by listening. Even social media wasn't safe from CNP. He'd wade into any massive confusion against all advice and answer any question, even when one of the questions was, "What idiot made this decision?" Rick replied, "Well, that would be me." And it's this authenticity that takes us to the third picture, Rick Cheeseman, the person, a visionary leader, gifted communicator, a dedicated family man. Your authenticity has had a lasting impact on your sailors. You demanded that those around you seek excellence while you did the same. Everyone wanted to work hard for you and be on the journey with you. And your remarkable ability, although Barbara may question this one, to maintain a very good work-life balance, getting home for dinner mostly on time, plotting out your leave so you could make it to March Madness with Andy and your friends year after year, taking hard leave before it was a thing so you could come back re-energized and ready to tackle the world. All of this and more made you the envy of your peers and an inspiration to those you led. Rick, today is certainly a bittersweet day, and as you have time to reflect on those 3 snapshots and your impactful career in the coming weeks and months, there will be things that you miss. Your team, driving your vision, the camaraderie, and most of all, the amazing sailors you've had the privilege of working with these past 36 years. But there will also be things you don't miss. Long meetings in the Pentagon, congressional hearings, nothing against anyone from the Hill. Oh, you do like this? Missed time with family and friends, and wearing these not so comfortable covers. So since I'm a few months ahead of you in retirement, let me get you started with what I think is a great replacement cover. One that actually fits on your head and you can wear anywhere, especially in your new primary job as Pop Pop. All right, here we go. This one's mine, and that one's yours.
Right,
sorry, I just couldn't don a Phillies coat. I'm not quite done.
I know. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Woo-hoo. We can switch that. Added to the collection. But in all seriousness, Rick, regardless of what sports team you cheer for, the Navy is and always will be your team. And you should take great pride in the lasting impact you have had on it. There is no doubt that you have absolutely been the right leader with the right experience at the right time throughout your career, and that you will be missed as a leader, teammate, and friend. So, as I wrap up, let me say thank you to the team gathered here today and those you represent. America's warfighting Navy remains the most powerful fighting force in the world, thanks to your leadership. Our Navy Marine Corps team operates from the seabed to space, around the world and around the clock, alongside our allies and partners, just as we have for the past 250 years, to defend our homeland, preserve the peace, respond in crisis, and win decisively in war, if called to do so. Rick, thank you for being part of this exceptional team and for personally making such a difference for our sailors, civilians, our families, for the Navy, and for our nation. Your service and your contributions, your legacy, will be carried on in those you've led, mentored, and trained, many of whom are standing the watch at this very moment. Bravo, Zulu, and congratulations to you and Barbara for a job and such an amazing career. Truly well done. You will both be missed. And we all look forward to staying in touch. We wish you fair winds and following seas on the next leg of your journey. We cannot wait to see where it takes you. Thank you very much. Put that down there.
Admiral Franchetti will now present Vice Admiral Cheeseman his retirement award. Guests, please rise. Military members, attention to award. The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Distinguished Service Medal to Vice Admiral Richard J. Cheeseman, Jr., United States Navy, for service set forth in the following citation. For exceptionally meritorious service to the United States in duties of great responsibility from May 2022 through June 2025 as Chief of Naval Personnel and Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Personnel, Manpower, and Training. Vice Admiral Cheeseman masterfully executed a $45 billion annual budget and increased fleet lethality and readiness. He orchestrated changes in the officer and enlisted promotion methods, retention levers, and developed the My Navy HR strategic framework that transitioned from legacy line of effort to new strategic goals. His accomplishments improved total force readiness, including accessions, retention, and advancement for the Navy's 365,000 active duty and reserve personnel. Vice Admiral Cheeseman's superb performance of duties culminated his 36 years of honorable and dedicated military service. By his distinctive accomplishments, exemplary leadership, and deep devotion to duty, Vice Admiral Cheeseman reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. For the President, signed, the Honorable John C. Phelan, Secretary of the Navy.
Thank you very much.
Guests, please be seated. Admiral Franchetti will now present Mrs. Cheeseman's wife, Ms. Barbara Cheeseman, a letter of appreciation. Certificate Appreciation from the United States Navy, presented to Barbara A. Cheeseman. By the authority vested in me, it is my pleasure to express the grateful appreciation of the United States Navy to you for your unselfish, patriotic, and devoted service during your husband's years of military service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped immeasurably to make possible his lasting contribution to the nation. To those who say a single person cannot make a difference, I say wrong. Your husband did. He made our Navy stronger and kept our nation safe. The United States Navy thanks you, and I thank you. Given this 13th day of June 2025, signed, James W. Kilby, Admiral, United States Navy. Vice Admiral Cheeseman is also presenting letters of appreciation to his children, Deanna Segrist, Bradley Cheeseman, and Andrew Cheeseman. Ladies and gentlemen, the 60th Chief of Naval Personnel, Vice Admiral Richard J. Cheeseman, Jr.
All right. Keynote, thanks very much for every word. It was humbling. And I can't thank you enough for being here. So, Secretary Del Toro, Betty, Admiral Ferguson, Vice Admiral Janicott, Honorables Garcia and Rumbaugh, friends and family, fellow sailors, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. It's important to me, and I'm honored by your presence. Before I really get started, I want to thank the band, of course, the Honor Guard, the Side Boys. You know, Side Boys are all people I previously served with, so thanks very much for being here. It means a lot. Our MC, Captain Marcus Seeger, also my DEA, thanks very much. Our ceremony coordinator and my flag aide, Lieutenant Captain Beato. Chief Dwight Burney, who's my flag writer, whose sole job really was to keep those two calm as we're preparing for the ceremony. I want to thank Senior Ed Davila. He's over there in the sling. He broke his collarbone 10 days ago, but he's still manning the cake station, so we're good. All right. Of course, the PAO shop and all the other unsung heroes, including Chaplain Todd. Thanks for pushing the rain to the right. I appreciate that. All right. But yeah, I really want to thank everybody who put this together. So thanks very much. I appreciate it. Yeah. I also want to thank my front office staff, past and present, who took care of me and our Navy. I mean, you know who you are, and I can't thank you enough. And just to be clear, if you write a book, I get some royalties, right? So we're all good there. I'd also like to thank the United States Army for throwing me a parade tomorrow. I really appreciate that. Should be a good time. Mick Pond, thanks for being on stage here with me. I asked Mick Pond to be here. It really mattered to me. As CNO said, given that our offices work so closely together in our mission to take care of sailors. I'm proud of the relationship we have, and I'm honored to have been appointed by you as an honorary Chief Petty Officer. That meant the world to me. Admiral Zuma was absolutely correct when he said that each command needed the wisdom, the experience, the judgment of our senior enlisted leaders. The Chief Petty Officer's Mess represents everything that has made and continues to make our Navy great. So, Mick Pond, thanks very much for being here. I'd also like to specifically thank my friend, Fleet Master Chief Delbert Terrell. Where are you? There you are. All right. Who was my battle buddy for most of the last 3 years. Thanks for getting your haircut yesterday, or whatever it was. It was good. It was all right. We cried it out at his retirement ceremony a few weeks ago, so I'm sure we're going to do it again here. Just is what it is with us. I really want to thank you and Kelly for your 36 years of service. Everything, Admiral Ferchetti said about me applies to you, man. Thanks very much. Okay. So, before I really get started, you've already seen it. I need to give you a fair warning about the crying. It's going to be continuous. It's going to be emotional. If you've been paying attention, you've seen me cry up here already. Those crying this morning, those crying last night, those crying last week, last month, last quarter, last year. It's been crying for a long time. It's just who I am. But as I was reflecting on this speech and sort of the process of how do you tie up 36 to 40 years in a quick speech because it's hot, I tried to figure out when this really started. All right. Certainly, I've always been emotional about the front row, right? Family. But as a younger man, I was very transactional when it came to my work and my service. I'm pretty sure all that changed on September 13th, 2001, just 2 days after 9/11. Many of us are glued to our TV sets around the clock to watch the aftermath of the events here in D.C., New York, and Pennsylvania. And that night, I was watching ABC News with Peter Jennings. All right. He ended his broadcast with a video from the United Kingdom of the Coldstream Guards playing the Star Spangled Banner during the changing of the guard ceremony at Buckingham Palace. It was an absolutely unprecedented alteration to the ceremony, ordered by Queen Elizabeth herself, breaking a centuries-old tradition dating back to 1660. I was to deploy a few days later with Carrier Group 8, and seeing that on screen and the reactions of thousands present for it changed something in me. Right. Wow, this picks up the huffing too. All right. It was a poignant reminder of the importance of allies and partners, of service bigger than oneself, and for me, the shared sacrifices of a world sailors, active reserve, and civilian. So, sometimes I get out of control. At my one-star promotion, Ann Hughes, sitting right there, who we didn't know too well at the time, but who's now a dear friend, thought that something was physically wrong with me and checked up on me. Then, a couple hours later, got me a little tissue box with a 1-star on it. It was all good. I mean, so stand by. I'll do the best I can. I know you're hot. All right, so earlier this morning I told you my 4-year and out plan. That was the first of many well-documented but poorly executed plans over the years. All right, I had no intention of staying Navy from the beginning, and at Penn State, I wasn't all that into the whole military thing at all. I was very low-key, under-the-radar type of midshipman, and you should ask Craig Clapperton, because despite being together for 8 semesters at Penn State, he doesn't remember ever seeing me. Right, Craig? Craig gives me shit all the time. You were not there. All right, and once I was commissioned, I actually resigned twice. I know this was not happening. All right, this was not happening. So definitely not the early plan. I get asked all the time what changed, what made me stay, and the answer wasn't always clear. But the more I matured into the role of naval officer, the answer became obvious, and it's the people. It just is. People, families, all of you. I owe all sailors and all of you here today a debt of gratitude. And I'm going to use my time today to talk about just that, the people who molded and mentored me into the man, and naval officer I am today. All right, so yes, early in my career I was fairly transactional, but that doesn't mean I didn't invest or become invested in individuals and learn from leaders around me. Certainly lifelong friendships with Ann McFarland and Paul Hutchison and Pat Pickard from my time in Savannah in the early 90s. And now Andy's wife Connie and Paul's wife Jackie mean more to me than most things in life. With a lack of real leadership in our first command, we learned to hold ourselves accountable. We worked hard, and as Andy's talked about already, we certainly played hard. All right? Sometimes I think it's the shared trauma of those years that keep us close now, and it certainly motivates me today to take care of sailors. You are all great men with great families. And Barbara and I are proud to be your friends. The same is true for Jim Rosina and his wife Andrea, who we met in Korea in 2004. The tour in Korea wasn't especially taxing at all, other than being about halfway around the world from everything you knew and cared about, to include daughter Deanna and new grandbaby Julie at the time. But Korea gave us time to grow as people. Jim and Andrea helped Barbara and me understand a broader worldview with amazing conversations and all-night card playing that started with a midnight knock on their door, Barbara and I in our pajamas, but properly equipped with a pitcher of margaritas. And those conversations continue today. I would do anything for them and their family. 3 leaders, all in command, stood out for me over my early years. Captain Gene Garrett was my CO in Stout, my second sea tour. I needed his mentorship after my first tour. He showed me that leadership and accountability. He showed me what it really, really looked like. I know he did it right because 5 of us JOs went on to command, 4 went on to major command, and 2 of us made flag. We owe all of our foundations to Gene Garrett and the culture he created. Working for then Captain Mark Ferguson, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks for being here. At Desron 18 really changed my life and my career trajectory. He was the first mentor who forced me to invest in and truly start to understand the machine of Big Navy. We would spend hours talking about life in the Navy, 3-year plans, 5-year plan, 10-year plans. And anyone who knows Admiral Ferguson knows he likes to work around the clock, so there was plenty of time to talk about that kind of stuff. It was good. Watching him in action, though, you couldn't help but become better. And it was here where I first thought that, yes, I could command a ship. He inspired confidence in me that I didn't know I had. He remained a mentor throughout my career and has been very helpful, but it's been good because when he called me to notify me where I was going for command, he told me I had to do well in command because he only mentors people who matter. All right, so that's motivation. And I think he's still taking my calls, so I think we're good, sir. I think we're good. All right. I did my EXO tour on USS Mahan, where I met a man who taught me you could just be yourself, have fun, and actually enjoy command. Terry Mosier was an amazing human. He personified mission command, where his no news is good news attitude inspired confidence throughout our crew. The trust he placed in his people was tangible. You could feel it right down to your core. And you didn't want to let him down. I miss him every day. And Michelle, thanks for being here. Service after Terry in my hand is a 20-year blur with phenomenal tours, one after another, including two overseas tours in Korea and Bahrain, 4 command tours in Bulkley, Monterey, Straight Group 2 and Straight Group 10, and 7 years total in the Navy Garden Spot of Millington, Tennessee. All right, that fleet concentration area of Millington, Tennessee. Yeah, through it all, I've met amazing sailors and families, and again, it's the people who stand out. Among those standout people are our Navy civilian sailors. I first worked closely with these professionals during my Millington time. Robbie Richard, Sheila Bridges, Marilee Stroman, and Jackie Olson were legends in the SOLO community. They were absolute workhorses, the backbone of all we accomplished. They, along with Karen Rublitis, Roger Berryhill, and Stephen Armstrong, ensured PERS 41 maintained course and speed over the years. Indeed, the entire HR enterprise would fail without our government and civilians. Tammy Barberin, Barry Perrell, Paul Rosen, John Pucciarelli, Ken Rowe, and Kent Miller are just a few examples of the many faceless names that dedicate their lives to service. Contrary to recent themes, they are not lazy, not crooked, nor dishonest. They are never disloyal. They serve the Navy and the nation just like me, and they do it with honor and integrity that others in government service and out should emulate. A special thank you to my deputy, Miss Lisa St. Andre. She joined the Navy in 1992 as a civilian. We were at a social event about 2 years ago, and Barbara and Lisa were talking, and I walked up to them and said something to the effect of, hey, look, it's the 2 most important women in my life. All right? Because it was true. That's how important Lisa is to me, our Navy, and our Navy families. And I said, thank you, Lisa, for your lifetime of service. I really appreciate it. All right. And I have to note that about a year ago, Lisa, Fleet T over there, Mr. Barry Perrell sitting next to Lisa and I, we joked about taking a blood oath to never leave the service until we get through all these challenges. And I'm the 3rd retirement ceremony since, so she's the only one left. We all bowed on her. All right, we all bowed on her. So thanks for all you do, Lisa. Barbara and I both felt it important to recognize Navy medicine in general and Commander Dr. Kim Fisher specifically. Many of you are familiar with my cancer journey. The first thing you find out about cancer is that you're never alone. All right? There's others out there. And as my doctor, Kim did everything she could to keep me healthy and on sea duty. Between the 2 of us, Barb and I had 7 procedures in 21 months during the pandemic. It was a hell of a time. All of the medical professionals along the way were simply fantastic, and we owe them more than we can give for their service to our nation. I'd also am very thankful for Admiral Gilday, Admiral Grady, and Vice Admiral Lewis, who kept me operational during those years, and for Ivy Kilby and Alexis Pyle, who routinely checked up on us. It helped us to heal, I'm sure of it, so thank you very much. Admirals John Al, Jim Kilby, and Gene Black were invaluable mentors over the last 15 years, molding and shaping my people-first thoughts and teaching me how to make life suck less for sailors. All right. Though, Gene, I don't know, man, you were my detailer twice, and twice I ended up overseas on short notice. I'm not sure you know what that means, taking care of sailors. All good. But I watched you operationally take care of sailors all the time. You're an amazing man. It was Gene and Vice Chief who first told me I should think about my place in the flag wardroom. And all 3 of these men, Gene, John, and Vice Chief, were a big part of getting me through the occasional rough patch in life. When Mom passed away in 2012 and Dad in 2014, John, Gene, and Jim really showed me how to look out for your shipmates, because they, from nearby and afar, took care of me. Hell, they took care of me when I didn't know I needed it, and they still do. I remain forever grateful for your friendship. Speaking of great friends, once selected for flag and becoming the head detailer, I was blessed, and I mean blessed, to work for Jeff Hughes at Navy Personnel Command. He taught me a valuable lesson, and that was to do less and think more. He taught me how to be a flag officer. He taught me how to think, act, and operate differently before the rest of the Navy knew what those words meant. Every new flag should go work for him. And if you do, I guarantee you'll learn all the aviation speak and hand gestures you'll need for the rest of your life. All right? All right? You may also expand your bourbon palate and get yourself kicked out of his house. But, yeah, all good there. All right? I recognize that all these experiences and friendships would not be possible without my family. While Mom and Dad are not here with us, I must admit, they raised me and brothers Scott and Matthew Wright as diehard Phillies and Eagles fans. Go Birds. You said I couldn't say it, but they could say it. We're good. Thank you, Benjamin. Seriously, though, I learned what hard work was from both of them, and I left home at 18 knowing I could do anything I wanted with my life because they would always be there for me, and later my family. To Deanna, Bradley, and Andrew, you grew up so fast. Oh, my God. You are all great kids, now adults, with great spouses and great lives. I'm so proud of all of you. You have been very understanding about the competing interests that have taken too much of my time from you. And I promise to invest that time back with all of you and with Julie, Kelsey, Benjamin, and Casey from here on out. Fist pump for both of you. There you go. You will see in your program a picture of Barbara and me holding hands while John now promoted me to captain. I think Karen Rublitis took that picture. Yeah, you did. Yep. That hand-holding wasn't planned. I instinctively reached out to her to, when I started reciting the oath, as an acknowledgement that Barbara and I do all of this together. Where's this? All right. Barbara, you have never met a stranger. You are a strong Navy spouse and mentor, a selfless mother and grandmother to your family and to all sailors. Just ask the gate guards. All right. All right. I am completely incomplete without you. You are strong when I am weak. You have held our family together, and you have never lost focus on what is important to us. I could not have done any of this without you. I look forward to writing our next chapter together, our next chapter more together than apart. I love you, baby. So, hope you like them. It was Admiral Bulkley who once said, and I quote, "The naval officer is truly unique, for he must have the capacity to simultaneously love his country, his service, his family, his shipmates, and the sea. He needs each of them unquestionably, as each of them needs him, and the demands which are placed on him never diminish, they only grow." And man, did I feel that last part of the last 3 years as the Chief of Naval Personnel. Man. Gene, you told me that moving from 1-star to 3-star was an exponential lift, and man, you were not wrong. All right. First, the Bureau of Navigation, and now the Bureau of Personnel. The names of all the past incumbents of my job are listed on a board just inside my office doors. From Charles Henry Davis during the Civil War to William Leahy during the interwar period to Chester Nimitz at the outbreak of World War II, along with modern-day titans John Harvey, Mark Ferguson, Bill Moran, and John Now. And as I walked by those names, I periodically stopped and reflected on what challenges they may have faced. That board is humbling and it's motivating. And this job has been everything I thought it would be and more. I have loved every minute of it. The best part, clearly, being on travel, not being in D.C. Right? We spent a lot of time on the road talking with and learning from sailors, and their energy and enthusiasm for the mission made this old man feel young again every time, right up until we landed in D.C. Right? Being the Chief of Navy Personnel is the best job in the Navy because our team gets to make life better for their shipmates. What more worthy cause is there? What more worthy cause is there? So over the last 36 months, the My Navy HR enterprise has tackled some wicked hard problems. Fixing sailor pay, reinvigorating recruiting, accelerating bill-of-base advancement, and advancing our Navy culture with a deliberate strategy to build good people, good leaders, and good teams. Those are 4 Herculean tasks that became easily doable because of the 26,000 sailors in this enterprise. Led by Lisa St. Andre, Delbert Terrell and Jay Walker, Pete Garvin and Cesar Jericho, Bull Housey and Mouse Bays, Jim Waters and Jennifer Kuchar, and the individual flag officers and SES civilians and senior enlisted who get shit done every day in this enterprise. What is striking for me is not the accomplishments, but the way we did it. We collectively embraced radical transparency. We uncovered areas of leverage, and we acted with urgency to meet our mission. And we did it with a clear focus on improving quality of service for sailors and their families. We did it calmly while taking care of each other, making it fun. At least I had a lot of fun. And with high standards. Some may argue that last point, and do, but let me be clear, I apologize for none of it. My center of gravity was, is, and will always be the American sailor. And over the last 3 years, I've done nothing but work every day to ensure sailors are ready to fight tonight. We are the best Navy in the world, the best Navy the world has ever seen. And I am proud of the small part I got to play in its 250-year history. It's something I'll never forget. So, thank you all for coming. Please join me and my family over here at the cake tent where Senior and his one collarbone will be ready to help us share a piece of cake and a sea story. So fair winds and following seas to y'all, and thank you very much. Almost got through it. Not really. All right. I will now read my orders.
Guests, please rise.
All right, there.
Military members, attention to orders.
CNO Order 8461, when directed by reporting senior, which at this point I think it's the 11th of July. Detached from Washington, D.C. as Chief of Naval Personnel, N1, Office of the Chief of Naval Operations, and proceed to home of record in Chesapeake, Virginia, with his family. Captain Seeger, haul down my flag.
Aye, aye, sir. Haul down Vice Admiral Cheeseman's flag. Vice Admiral Cheeseman will now be presented his personal flag by Fleet Master Chief Walker. Guests, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, James Honey, will now read the watch.
For over 30 years, this sailor has stood the watch. While some of us were in our bunks at night, this sailor stood the watch. And while some of us were in school learning our trade, this shipmate stood the watch. Yes, even before some of us were brought into this world, this shipmate stood the watch. In those years when the storm clouds of war were seen brewing on the horizon of history, this shipmate stood the watch. And many times he would cast an eye ashore and see his family standing there, needing his guidance and help, needing that hand to hold during those hard times, but he still stood the watch. He stood the watch for 36 years. He stood the watch so that we, our families, and our fellow countrymen could sleep soundly in safety each and every night, knowing that a sailor stood the watch. Today we are here to say, shipmate, the watch stands relieved. Relieved by those that you have trained, guided, and led. Shipmate, you stand relieved. We have the watch.
Guests, please rise for the benediction and remain standing for the conclusion of the ceremony as Vice Admiral Cheeseman requests to go ashore for the final time.
Let us pray. Lord, as the shipmate is piped ashore, we farewell them with a prayer for your continued blessing for Rick and Barbara, and a prayer of gratitude for the loving support showed by Deanna, Bradley, Andrew, their spouses, and those beloved grandchildren. Eternal Father, you have called us to voyages of which we cannot always see the ending, by passages as yet uncharted, through perils unknown. Give us faith to go out with good courage, not knowing where we go, but only that your hand is on the tiller and your love is strengthening us. Lord, we pray that you will grant a shipmate fair winds and following seas, and in your time, grant us all the opportunity to once again celebrate your blessing with beloved shipmates. Amen.
Bosun, post the side boys. Following a time-honored naval tradition, Vice Admiral Cheeseman will now request permission from Admiral Franchetti to go ashore for the final time.
Permission granted.
Vice Admiral, United States Navy, retired, and family, departing. Hooray! 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 Ma'am, this concludes our ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. You are cordially invited to a reception here at Lutzy Park.
There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was the Billy O.T. The winds blew harder, bowed it down below, my bully boys blow. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tongue in his